Okay, guys, so this is the debate on the benefits of government surveillance of citizens' internet use, and do they outweigh the harms, such as the invasion of privacy? So you guys on the left side here are for government surveillance. You guys on the right side are against government surveillance. So we'll go ahead and start with persons 1 and 2 on the left team here. After persons 1 and 2, we'll have a first question and answer session.
Can I start?
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start off on the question. What is surveillance? Surveillance, according to dictionary.com, surveillance means a continuous observation of a place, person, group, or activity in order to gather information. As the technology develops, there are more types of surveillance start to appear. And as the information explodes, more people start to aware of this problem. And that raises to a question. Is surveillance a beneficial action or not? As you guys, as the opposition may argue that it could violate personal information, in other words, people's privacy. However, in some perspectives, such as national security or uphold justice, surveillance is playing an important role inside. Consider of this scene. When someone committed a murder and he's on the way out of country, credit card charges, phone records, security cameras, and traffic footages of him could lead to where he is going. And then the capture could be operated. Finally, the final justice is upheld. Moreover, the surveillance system could help the government to inspect hostage activities to prevent their citizens from death, such as bombing from terrorist attacks, which my teammates will discuss this later in the later sections. Despite all the reasons for security, people is another factors. There's an old quote says, "A plain, concise, fears not false accusation." That means if you're not doing anything wrong, that means therefore you don't have anything to be afraid of. It could also applies to surveillance topic. If you're doing everything followed by the laws, then the surveillance system should not affect you at all. If you're engaging in any unlawful activities, that means you don't have the legitimate justification for your privacy. At last, I would like to restate our position in this argument. Surveillance is essential for the stability of society and cannot be retrieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuri. Can I ask the other team, person 1 and 2, to go ahead? Application, yeah.
So, good morning, everybody. My name is Shinya Miyamoto. So, listen, I want to present to you why we are against this. So we are against the privacy. So, recently, the internet devices are developing, as you know, and at the same time, the government are able to survey people's privacy. So the aim of this action is to prevent the terrorism, for example, or the crimes from the chatting websites. So, for example, Facebooks or Instagrams, something like those. And so, or they have the freedom of speech. So, if the government has the right to survey privacy, and this means that security more important than privacy. And from our perspective, we disagree that the government surveillance is more important than privacy. According to the website that are called the United Nations Human Rights, the article 17 says no one shall be subjected to arbitrary, unlawful interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence. No attacks on his honor and reputation. Therefore, the government must respect and not survey security that people are doing on their website. So, and government may prevent also the crimes, but most of them are ending by the failures. So does it worth to survey people's privacy even it's non-ethical? So the rest of the presentation are from my colleagues, so my representative of all my teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shinji. Okay, I'll give 1 minute to Team A to ask questions to Team B. These are you guys.
What do you say?
You go ahead. Whatever you want.
Do I have to say to whom or just to team?
It can be general, or you can direct it at a specific person.
Shinya, as you said in your speech that the surveillance is used for crime solving, and you said, but you argue that the crime solving is not all based on the surveillance system, but based on fair. How would you give an example for this?
For example, as you know, recently there was a kind of terrorism for example, in France. Do you know I am Charlie, and they said that there was some kind of chatting, but the government they didn't prevent that.
But however, if the government didn't prevent that, but they tracked them down and hunt them, so it didn't cause more death based on the surveillance system.
You're probably right, but how to say? So, how do you think? How do you think that? How could they prevent those crimes?
I'm not saying they could prevent, but they could. Like they could prevent it, but if they fail to do it, they could still use the surveillance system to diminish the death of people and track the criminals to not let them doing anything more harmful to the society.
I might have to stop you guys there at Team 1. So Team 2, I'll let you, if you want to continue with that, or you can ask a question to Team.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You said that if you're a good citizen and you don't have anything to hide, then you shouldn't be afraid of government surveillance. But what if the government uses the information to manipulate you? For example, the government knows everything about your family, and if you do something to the government, or like just if the government doesn't like you, what if they use this information about your family to manipulate you?
Well, first of all, I think your government won't do that to its own citizens. That is unethical, and it's not logical
Governments
to
are
do.
doing it.
How do you know?
For example, even the situation with at Snowden, it's his government that punishing him
Yeah,
for
because
revealing files that are, they think.
Private from
because those
government.
files
Top
are
secret.
Yeah,
top
but people have a right to know.
but they're not their business.
So my own privacy is not my own business.
No,
So
because
my privacy is the government's
Snowden
business.
invaded the government's privacy.
No, he didn't invent. He worked in national.
Yeah, but
Whatever
He
it's
made the
called.
But
He
there's
worked
a
there, and
protocol.
he just realized
But
that.
there's a protocol for the agency he worked. The information he received should not be reviewed to the public.
Yes, but there
Yeah,
are
but there's no
protocols.
transparency in their operations.
I
That's
read a
what's
lot of
specific.
articles
What's
about
specific.
this situation,
No, but
and
this should be a transparency.
NCA broke their own laws considering people's privacy.
Yeah, for the national security.
So first
No,
they
they
go-
make laws to protect privacy, and then they break them. Their own laws. That's okay. You don't know the situation, but didn't steal the information that like if it was made by protocol that NSA created, then he wouldn't steal the information. He revealed the files that were stolen, but they were like the president of NSA didn't know that people are stealing other people's information. He was like totally didn't know that.
Okay, guys,
The president.
I'll stop you there. Some good thoughts there. Let's pick that up after persons 3 and 4. And hopefully some other people participate. I'll read for Frankie since she's not here. I'm going to tell you the story of 2 girls. You can see them in the pictures here. This is Fatima, and this is Farah. Okay. Look closely. Let's begin with these pictures. You can see that the little girl in the first picture, Fatima, was injured and she's got blood on her head. She's a survivor of a suicide bombing in Iraq in 2013. The bombers located an elementary school where these innocent children were having classes. And at least 33 people died in the terrorist attack, which included 12 young and lovely children who had done absolutely nothing wrong. The second girl was much less lucky. Farah here, she's actually dead. She was killed in a car bomb explosion in Kirkuk in 2011. We can see all of her family, her father, her brothers are deeply grieving about her death. However, there's nothing that can bring her back. Although we can't do anything for the dead, there's one thing that governments can do to protect us now. Imagine if there were surveillance in Iraq that spied on people to locate terrorists and stop them killing the public, citizens. Those people wouldn't be killed, and Iraq would be a safer place for citizens. I think that no one really wants to see their family dead or friends because of terrorist attacks. Surveillance may make people feel that their privacy is insecure. However, it's for the greater good and the safety of the public. Thank you.
Is it person 4?
Person 4, yeah.
I will tell you when to flip the page. I want to start with a quote of Margaret Chan. So listen carefully, please. Doctors and nurses, with their training and their experiences, they would be able to detect unusual patterns of disease. That's why we say it is important for every country to have a proper surveillance system. The function of the surveillance system is to detect unusual patterns of disease. So as you all know, US is most popular for their surveillance. So let's focus particularly on this country. First of all, I want you to contemplate those 2 columns that represent the total amount of people, real spirits, by the way, that passed away due to terrorist attacks that could be prevented by government surveillance. However, notice that these serve as examples, these tables serve as examples of lack of government surveillance only in US. And imagine what would be the numbers for the whole world. Okay, next picture, please. Here we see that 54 terrorist attacks were thwarted by perfect government calculation. And we can only imagine how many people they saved by preventing those terrorist attacks. Government are anxious to keep us safe, like guardian angels, but people still try to think up reasons to complain, but like referring to their rights for privacy or something. Next picture, please. Here we see this survey, and it represents that people are more concerned about their safety rather than privacy. But minorities still try to stop the surveillance, become strikes and handle these things. But wait a second, ask yourself a question. Why does the majority of people who care more about the safety should suffer for those who care about their privacy, or I don't know. So in order to eliminate the rest of the doubts, I want to explain you the procedure of wiretapping on an example of phone calls. The thing you have to consider is that NSA does not collect neither identity of the caller nor the contents of the call. If the map of the calls seems to be suspicious, then they may ask for Query to give them permission. But Query in turn will require special or irrefutable evidence to override the Fourth Amendment rights. The most important thing is that surveillance is warranted by real threats, appropriately limited, supervised by competing branches of government. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move over to person 3 and 4.
Yeah,
on
I just-
15.
Es que vayas a la foto. Es que vayas a la foto.
I would like to start this speech with the quote by 34th President of the United States of America that if you want total security, go to prison. They're your fat clothes, given medical care and so on. The only thing lacking is freedom. This quote supports the opinion of our group that privacy is very important to every person. There is lots amounts of information that are used by other people and by government that is private. For example, on this picture, this is like Facebook post going out for pizza, and some people made fun of it, like public friends and the NSA, only me and the NSA and only the NSA. This suggests that Facebook should actually say that, well, it's not, you're sharing this information not just with your friends or family or whoever you want to see this, you're sharing it with the National Security Agency of United States of America and other national agencies through whole world. Many people would say, like probably our opponents, you would say that, well, if you have nothing to hide, then why should you have to be afraid of other people seeing your information? If you have nothing to hide, then it's fine if, like, national agency would look through my emails or calls or internet browser. But actually, these people are lying to themselves. Sorry, guys. Because you're still doing passwords for your emails. You're still locking your door when you enter your home. You're still closing your windows, and it's all because you want privacy. This is your place, and you don't want other people to invent it. And to tell the truth, we all have something to hide. We all have some information that we would like to share with our family, with our friends, or even just with ourselves, not with National Security Agency of the United States of America. And when you're calling someone or writing an email, people shouldn't be worried about how the government would interpret this, because you don't know what they think when they see your email on their screen. So they can interpret it in the way that it's not actually true. So why freedom and our privacy is so important to us, to all of us, to each person in this room, because this is our right to have freedom. And probably we don't need this right now, but probably we will need it in some near future. Yeah, sorry. And if we're giving up our rights now, then what should we do later when we will really need our rights? Freedom is something that people always fought for, and we still should be fighting for it, because that's our right and that's in our nature to be free. And in the end, I just want to say as Benjamin Franklin said, those who surrender freedom for security will not have, nor do they deserve either one. And as we saw this before, yes, yeah, in this guy's record. He just said this. Who knows how they will interpret this? You can know for sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. Let's move on to person 4, data. When are you ready?
Alright, so I'm Kaito and I'm gonna explain about a bit of qualitative data and quantitative data, both of them, of how people perceive surveillance. So first of all, I would say that in November 2013, there was an ankei and they got the result of 59% that in the government people thought that they should rethink about their surveillance because they were not supporting it. And in the website, which I have a resource, it says that most of the people were not fully agreed, even though they are partially agreed. So we can say that we can say that guys, you're not wrong or anything, but I'm saying that our claim you guys cannot deny it because in everything you have advantages and disadvantages. And I want to say something that Anastasia brought before, and you guys also talked about it, that government, after all, they're people, and don't think that governmenters are a mechanism or they're God or anything. They're people like us. They're a group of people. So if they don't like someone, they can surveil that person and make that person feel bad. That you guys said, no, it cannot be that possible. An example would be Nihad Awad, who is executive director of the Council on American Relations, which is the largest Muslim civil rights organization in the country, and he claims that, and he also approves that the government was spying on him, all his messages and cell phones, and that's because of his racial background, because he's Muslim, and he actually was supporting the government, and he did all the good things that he could think about it for the government, even though the government has this stereotype for the Muslims, they were spying on him, and that can be one of the negative things that the government can bring in the surveillance. And I want to point out why I think this is the right thing, what I'm saying, because, for example, in human we have something called private space, which all we need it, and basically what the government is doing is violating this space. For example, you will not. Okay, I'm just gonna. Is it fine if I move myself? Okay. Would you like to do this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think most of the people would not like to have this on their faces, like people saying here government. But but so what I want to say is that you cannot see because it's technology, it's internet. But what people are doing is that it's putting their faces in front of your face and looking at what you're doing. And you would say that it doesn't matter because I don't see that. But actually people are looking at your face and they're looking what you're doing, which can they can abuse their power and they can do such a thing as what they did to Nihad Awad. So to conclude, what I can say that surveillance can bring a negative emotion to people and can bring to disadvantages for the people. People. No, oh, for the citizens. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Kato. Let's move on to question and answers again. So I'll give a minute and a half or so for team 1.
Start the question now?
I was gonna let them start, but I can let you guys start if you want. Okay, go ahead.
They start the next time.
Okay.
Okay, considering here some statistics in which says like 39 people were killed, but not only in 1 year. It was like from 2014
In
to
US.
in US, only 39.
What do you
Now, okay, let's compare these numbers with other threats. For example,
What's your? I would come to a question if possible. You can mention your data.
but
Yeah, you're supposed
okay,
to.
actually, I have one statistic here that it says that from 13,288 people that were killed, only 17 were USA citizens. And there are other like threats, for example, like
What's the
obesity.
question?
No, obesity and like other threats. And here, for example, it says that for obesity, 300,000 people die per year in the United States, compared to 300,000 people died in the United States for obesity for 39 in 10 years.
That proves that their surveillance works.
Can I?
Huh?
They prevented a lot of them, so that proves that.
No,
This really
no,
works.
the government is spending too much budget and time in surveillance, and they're not spending time in other threats.
I recommend it to the government.
Okay, go ahead, Bella.
I
Ask your
have
question.
a question. Okay, I was just curious, where did you find this information about how NSA works, like going to court and asking, and about phone calls? Where did you get
It's
this
out of
information?
the debates of real government. No. It's from
Well, I would suggest you to listen to the TED Talk of Ed Snowden. Really suggest you to watch it and to listen to it, because that's not how NSA really works
How do you
at
know?
all.
How do you know?
Okay, I'll flip it back. So, Team A, you can ask questions now. Okay. Try to frame it as a question. If you have a little premise to your question, some stats or facts, that's fine. But just keep it brief.
I have a brief one. I mean, the photo that Bella showed us, it's a clear evidence of how people are conscious that they are being, that their privacy is being corrupted. I mean, if people know that their privacy is being corrupted, they should know what to publish and what not to publish. I mean, for example, if
And
you
where is then the freedom of speech?
Well, if some
Like,
information
you
you
you can't publish. I mean, how many friends do you have on Facebook? 500, let's say. How many of them are close to you? Probably 100. Top.
Oh, okay, yes.
So you're publishing it knowing that the 400 people that you don't really know of are supposed to know. I mean, you said that if you wanted to share something with friends, the NSA is watching. That if you want to share something with your family, NSA is watching. If you want to share something personal with friends, you want the NSA to check it, you should go have a coffee with them. If you have to share something with your family, go have during Christmas dinner or whatever. I mean, the thing is that the
Why
NSA...
should I do that? Internet was created to
Because
unite
the NSA
people.
You shouldn't, because the NSA doesn't care. The thing is, my question is, why do you think that the NSA cares whether you go out for a pizza or whether you're in a relationship? If you don't have anything to hide, you have nothing to fear.
That's not right. Because we all have something to hide.
No, the internet is called the World Wide Web. Everything you post down there, it's all around the world. So if you don't want anybody to see your privacy, don't post it.
But
Keep it to
actually,
yourself.
You're
What
supposed
about
to-
the things that you
they-
don't post,
you're
like
supposed to-
emails and phone calls? You don't post them, right?
Yeah, that's supposed
It's
to be
the whole
privacy.
system of telecommunication. It doesn't
It's not
mean
only the things you
just
post.
the internet. You think you're not watched on the streets? Then it's really sad if you
It's
think
traffic
so.
footage.
Because-
what are you
What
doing
about
on the
your
streets?
car is crashed and this guy's run away? So
Or you get robbed
And
then
they
find
still
out.
run away, and nobody catches them.
No, the
That's
people
the
do
thing.
catch them.
No,
The
people do
catch them.
not catch them.
I just heard this weekend I just
please
went.
don't apply your personal
Okay, what
emotion
about your
inside this,
personal
okay?
I mean, my
Okay, guys, I gotta cut you off there, but we've got one more question and answer session. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with persons 5 and 6 on Team A here, and I'll hopefully get some interaction from the people who haven't participated yet.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you why I really agrees the question of this topic. Since 1990s, there are more than 100 terrorist attacks happened in the United States, and then the number of deaths related to these attacks has reached to 3,000, and the number of people who got injured is even bigger. So it is reasonable for the government to protect their citizens. And people also have the right to life as well as the right to not be killed in unjust attacks. And the internet surveillance is one of the ways to prevent this kind of tragedy. As my partner Lucia said before, 54 attacks failed due to the internet surveillance. This shows that it actually works as a tool against terrorists. Some people may say that the government gather a huge amount of information, but only prevent few terrorist attacks, or they even cannot prevent it, such as the gun shooting in Paris. However, it's also true that people's lives have been saved because of the censorship and the surveillance. We cannot give up the chance to save these people's lives just because another group of people died in terrorist attacks. And to put this situation on balance, the lives that have been saved due to the surveillance are much more important than the privacy. In other words, to live is much more significant to have privacy. So our group agrees that the benefits of domestic surveillance by the government outweigh their harms.
Thank you. Yes, persons.
Hello. Yeah. So I totally understand what kind of question you guys might ask to make you have this opinion. Even if the government may have the access to citizens' online information, they cannot stop 100% the terrorist attack, so it's not worth it. And you might use Charlie Hebdo as an example, since the French intelligence and government are able to spy on internet users in real time without prior legal authorization under a law passed on 2013. However, we still insist our opinion that internet surveillance is an essential measure since 54 attacks failed due to the internet surveillance. In other words, we think the benefits of surveillance outweigh the harms. People may argue that internet surveillance is against the basic human rights. However, a government official like the defense minister of France said that the measure is necessary to combat terrorism, organized crime, and to protect national security. And he also mentioned that public liberty will be covered in the future law. And we should also review this issue from another perspective. After Charlie Hebdo, most European countries that are seeking to increase their surveillance and anti-terrorism power on their citizens, which means this measure is pretty essential and effective because the majority of countries are trying to use it. Internet surveillance they don't have the skill to determine what content is likely to lead to a terrorist attack. For example, in France, even if this measure cannot stop the terrorist attack completely, but they can definitely keep track of the criminals and prevent the following attack. In France, they were able to monitor the terrorist location and calling history and ensure the national security to a certain extent. As the old Chinese saying goes, it's always wise to play it safe. Do you think your email account is much more important than 18,000 people died because of the terrorist attack on 2013? What if you run the risk? And yeah, is that time?
Yeah, you're a little over time, but it's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. Okay, I'll turn it over to persons 5 and 6 on this side. I think oh, we already did 5, right? Yeah, was person 4 and 5 combined? Okay. Okay, let's go ahead, Leo. Okay, Leo.
Yeah. So I would like to start my presentation with one question. Is the National Security Agency surveillance legal? Slavery was once upon a time, in USA, or as well as hanging people in UK in 1964. Americans didn't know about the NSA until Edward Snowden revealed documents and showed to the public the secret governmental projects. After this information was revealed, the people discovered that nations surveillance court created a secret body that allowed the NSA to collect data on Americans. So if USA considers tracking people legal, why there is no transparency in their operations? This lack of transparency shows the abuse of power using laws to achieve individual goals without the consideration of the citizens. Moreover, surveillance causes racial stereotyping and inequality in a country. After the 1911 terrorist attacks, the Americans started to track people with Middle East ethnicities. Even the Native Americans with Middle East backgrounds were spied by the NSA. This increases discrimination and reduces freedom of the minorities. Last but not least, as technology advances, the surveillance methods becomes more efficient and it's more difficult to be anonymous. Satellites are capable to find people around the world in just a few seconds. And scientists said that this technology will be implemented to like guns in the near future. Would you feel safe in a country where your government can shoot smart bullets and track you and kill you? I wouldn't feel safe. Surveillance is changing our society in which there are no citizens, only targets. In conclusion, we are a society that expects to be free and to have that freedom protected. Thus, the main reason of security is to protect those rights. But when those protections start to limit our freedom, the security becomes our biggest threat.
Thanks, Leo. Okay, I'll give about a minute and a half each. I'll let this team start again. Question and answer.
May I ask you a question?
Go ahead. Or maybe people
In
have
the beginning of the debates, you said that people have
Question.
to.
Can I let Layan and Yuyin ask first? If you have time, we'll come back. Is that okay?
Oh,
Because some people haven't had a chance to participate.
okay. So Leandro mentioned that it's illegal to have this internet surveillance. And how do you define illegal? I mean, the government, they set the laws, right? The reason why the US has this National Security Agency is because they have been suffering from all those great tragedies like the 9/11. That's why they start to realize the importance of internet surveillance and how to track those criminals, know their behavior, because they know how important it is. And for Kaito, he said like the government may use this thing towards maybe individual, like for example, if they're going for like election or something, they might use it against their enemy or something. But we have to understand that's a very childish behavior because the government, they set the laws by themselves, so they will not accept. They have zero tolerance towards people who break the laws. So,
What's your question?
They break them themselves.
I don't know about Chinese government, but looking at our Russian or Ukrainian government, we can say that they break the law like every single minute, and they just
So
Every
Yeah,
government
but if the
breaks the
country
law.
that
But if we stop
Really
analyzing
complicated
each country
topic.
separately, they
Yeah.
might manage. I mean, just a comment. You have like attacked us like all the time using the NSA. We're not debating in favor of the NSA. We're debating in favor of government surveillance to some extent. I mean, how the NSA manages their information in the US, that's their problem. That's not this debate.
Oh, that's all connected.
Can I turn it over to this team to ask a question?
No,
Okay,
but I want to answer what Lion said.
let me let Sheena ask a question and then I'll let you chime in again, Leo, after, okay?
Okay, sure. So, you guys, I want to ask you some questions. So, you said that you said that privacy, not the privacy, but the surveillance of the government may help to prevent some kind of crimes. But sometimes the government do not take some chatting. For example, I want to kill someone, very seriously. They think sometimes they think it's a bump, but do you still think that the government must survey people's privacy or not? What do you think?
I mean, so you mean like some,
I mean that the government they do not take seriously people's.
how do you know they don't take it seriously?
Because they don't prepare to prevent.
They don't what?
They don't prepare to prevent.
Prepare to prevent. I mean, like surveillance is one of the ways to prevent.
Sometimes the surveillance is used to prevent the criminal to happen, but sometimes it's to diminish the damage that it caused. To your specific example, for example, if you chat with I'm gonna kill someone, and 2 days later that guy died, and the chatting history could be a reference for you listed as a suspect.
I gotta cut it off, guys.
Yeah,
I'm
but
really,
at the same
I'm really sorry to
time-
cut it off. I could let this go, and then you guys can do the conclusions tomorrow, or we can do the conclusions now and finish.
Tomorrow.
Okay, I'll let you guys. You know, I think we should conclude. I think that would be a nice closing. But we can have some more questions tomorrow at the beginning of class. Go ahead, Fabian. You want to finish up? And then who's last on this side?
What?
Who's last on the? Oh, good, Nasir. Okay.
Should I go
Go,
first? or
Fatih,
Nasir?
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll go. Hello. So we understand that people will always try to keep on defending their privacy, since it is like a human instinct to try and protect your personal space from being invaded by other people or by society. We understand that tensions may arise knowing that your privacy is being corrupted, and because of this, people usually tend to forget the whole point of governance surveillance, which is providing safety for the citizens. In other words, for you, not you guys, for you, for all of us. In the pictures that Frankie was going to show us, that Solomon we showed you, we had two examples of two Islamic girls who were victims of a terrorist attack that could have been prevented by governance surveillance, and this is just an example of how, by sacrificing just a tiny bit of our safety, that can lead to saving the life of many people or preventing terrorist attacks and saving better than your own life. Government surveillance does not mean that your government security agencies are gonna walk into your door and they're gonna open your doors and they're gonna say like, okay, you got this and this is legal. Or what they're gonna do, as you guys said, they're gonna like monitor your transactions made by your credit card, probably the things you do, like cameras on the street and your activity in the World Wide Web. Knowing that many citizens are all around the world, like for example in Singapore, they accept the fact that they're being surveilled because they know that security is much more important. Knowing that you as adults, you're supposed to know what to publish on Facebook, what to do on the streets, and what not to do, or what not to write on an email. If you're not sending an email to anyone saying that you're going to kill someone, or on the streets you're going to grab a bat and start hitting windows or something, you have absolutely nothing to worry about.
We're gonna finish it up, Fabian.
Just to conclude, I was going to say that government surveillance, it's to some extent, is morally correct since it leads to the greater good of all of the citizens. As long as the citizens are in control, they are aware that the government is keeping an eye on them. And they know that there's no potential threat to their nation. The government should have zero interest in your personal affairs. Just about that. I'm just going to leave you with the NSA's main statement, main argument, which is if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to lose.
Okay, thanks, Fabian. Nasir, you finish up? We got 2 minutes, okay?
We got 0 minutes.
Yeah. Let's try to finish up. This is why it's really important for your teammates to keep their. Some of you guys' speeches were over 3 minutes, but.
So we win because.
Go ahead, Nasir. I'll send an email if
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Morning, everyone. regarding this important question on whether the government has or has no right to spy on people, and whether if it's worth to sacrifice our own privacy to in order to be safe and receive some kind of protection from the government, we decided that the government of any country does not have such a right. And I want to point out some of the things that my partners mentioned before. That first of all, the government surveillance is the direct infringement of the law of human rights, including the right for freedom and right for private and personal life. I would like to quote in article number 8 from the human rights. Everyone has the right to respect for his private and family life, his home and his correspondence. Based on this law, we think that the government does not have such a right, and they don't have any rights to track people by using their technical devices or looking at people's emails and watching their phone calls. Fabian mentioned that if you don't want to post something, if you don't want to some people to see your private information, you just don't post it on things. But what about the phone calls or messages? Something private that you want to keep for yourself. The second thing that I want to point out is that there is no guarantee of complete safety, and the government spends a lot of money trying to invest in this in the internet surveillance. But as Costa said, there were only 54 terrorist attacks that the government could prevent. But as Leandro mentioned, there were a lot of them that the government couldn't prevent.
Can you finish up? Yes, yeah. Can you finish up?
Yeah. So, and moreover, the government uses our private information for their own purposes to be more powerful when breached, and they can use it against us. And who knows, maybe we're the next target. So, we're all on the same team and we all want to be safe, but giving the government such a right, think yourself. First of all, for what purposes they use the information, and second of all, how effective it is. So taking into the consideration of all these facts, we decided that the benefits of government surveillance does not outweigh the harm.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. I'll send you an email about your homework, which is in your journals. I'll send an email to your teachers right now, just telling them that you'll be a little bit late, okay, so they can check their email. Sorry to make you tardy. Thank you very much for your part. We'll start the class with a little discussion following up to this.